Hey guys, it's Albertium, back with another video. I apologize for my absence. I have, received a gift of coronavirus for Christmas. And you can probably tell, by my voice that I am still not fully out of it. Now, I thought it would be really awesome to make a little video and make another Lies of P video. And we're going to be ranking the bosses of the game. Now, I'm going to be telling you right away, you might feel a little bit upset by this ranking, because here's the thing, most of the bosses in the game simply aren't that good. And I'm gonna be explaining why. So I encourage you to maybe sit through and hear what I have to say, because I am absolutely gonna be fair throughout this whole thing, and I always do that. I do not put forward any type of personal bias. And that's gonna be here. Obviously, the benchmark for these bosses, it's always gonna be the From Software games and the bosses that they made themselves. And I'm gonna be explaining that as we go along in the video. Now, first boss is going to be the Parade Master. In my humble opinion, this is a very good first boss. Because here's the thing, the things that I can fault this boss for simply don't hold up as a criteria as a first boss. Now, he is not that difficult and not too complicated. His movesets aren't that complex, he doesn't have that much going on. He has a few attacks, he does not really mix up his patterns all that much, and he is exactly what a first boss should be. A very good boss, still a challenge, but he is not that complicated, that he is simply going to be that much of a roadblock in your playthrough where you're going to be losing God knows how many hours, days, or whatever. He is there to teach you that the game is no joke, that's going to be getting harder as you progress further, and he is an amazing stepping stone in your journey on this game. He fully deserves the A class. Now, the Scrapped Watchman. This guy, I feel like the visual design of this boss fight kind of sweeps up people a little bit too much, because he is just phenomenally animated. He is just a really good looking boss, and he is a lot more agile, a lot more agile and faster than the Parade Master. He simply does not have that many movesets, variety things to him. He has his left, right, the wind up with the fist, and maybe a grab attack, and that's all he does. The second phase does a pretty solid job at kind of mixing that up a little bit with the electricity attacks that kind of linger in wake of his attacks that you, have to move about, and just keeps you on your toes a little bit. I do like this boss fight. I do like it, and you know what? It is exactly what I personally would have made for a second boss fight of the game. This is such a natural progression from the Parade Master that I simply just love it. He just switched up just enough, just the right amount needed for the second boss, and this is yet again a A-class boss. Now, we go to the King's Flame Fuoco. This is gonna be the boss that basically slightly really starts some sort of a trend that I'm gonna be blaming most of these bosses on, because here's the thing. And I said that we're gonna be using the From Software bosses as a benchmark for these things. From Software bosses, well, not all of them, absolutely most of them, they have a lot going on to them. They switch up their patterns, to surprise you, and they change their positioning quite a lot in relation, to the player. So you really are kept on your toes the whole time. And this kind of starts feeling a little bit static. I'm not gonna lie, it's a big robot. He has his basic attacks that really are so basic, and it kind of may create an illusion that he does move about, because he has this one lunging attack across the whole arena. But a nice thing, a little bit that they kind of added to this boss fight was that in the second phase he's gonna be doing these like oil puddles that if you interact with them once they are on fire, you're gonna be taking damage. So it made you kind of pay attention to that and the boss at the same time. So that is a cool little feature, but it just isn't enough, and this to me is a C-class boss. Oh my gosh, the Fallen Archbishop. To me, personally, this has to be one of the worst bosses ever created in any game ever. Here's the thing. If that guy was static, this guy is just there. constantly, and he's just obscuring your vision, and that's all he's doing. So he has his left-right tongue attack. Maybe he's gonna get up on his little chicken legs and slam the ground, and that's that. That is basically that. Nothing else to it. You will not be surprised by anything here. And the second phase, once that comes, well, you can turn that basically into the first phase yet again by simply going behind the boss and facing off against the correct phase. And it's simply going to be the first phase all over again. This is truly a dreadful designed boss. D-class completely. Now, we are going to be going to the first gank fight of the game, and it's not a really good one. It's simply not a good one. The eldest brother, he himself, I could actually really see as a really cool boss, and maybe they should have just kept him alone here, because all of these other little guys, they're mostly annoying. Not really adding anything else. They are like these little flies that are just coming at you and just annoying you, and they just have really annoying personalities as well. I honestly think this should have been a one-on-one fight against the eldest brother, like this says, and that is where this could have really, really shown. And it's just not good, but it's not terrible, you know. So I'm kind of undecisive between B, you know, and C, but I'm gonna put it in C, but I'm gonna call it a C plus maybe, you know, because hey, at least it really, you know, works, you know, mechanically. The champion Victor, this is a very peculiar fight. Now, this is kind of a first truly I'm not sure how to even call it, but his movesets are not that varied either. It's basically fighting Bane from Batman, and he acts like a big wrestler. He does pack a punch a lot, but he never really switches up anything on you, and it's always the same. Doesn't have that much varied moveset either, but at least this boss fight was fun. It honestly really was. And Champion Victor, I think he deserves his, well, B rank. And the second fight, sorry, not that, the second phase, I just don't think it refreshed this boss fight enough. It was basically the same thing all over again, you know, with a few minor little tweaks. And it's just not enough. But still, I stand by calling this a very fun boss fight. B class all the way. Now, King of Puppets. What do I even say about this guy? The intro was absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. And it kind of left me a little bit confused, you know, because he first approaches you kind of in a friendly way, you know, but then you later, I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone if you haven't played the game, but this is a truly amazing boss fight. It really, really is. The two phases are vastly, vastly different. The first phase, you know, he is pretty big, but it's still keeping you on your toes, and he is changing his positioning in regards to the player. His attacks are very well animated, very well done. He is going to be having a few surprises for you, and then the second phase comes, and the second phase just turns the whole boss fight upside down. All of a sudden, you are fighting this really small, super agile, super fast enemy, and you know what? He is pretty damn fast and pretty exhausting. The thing is, you can pretty much negate a lot of his attacks by dodging, but mostly just moving to one side. Still, this is probably one of the best fights in the entire game, and I'm gonna put him in the S tier. And we go to the green monster of the swamp. Now, this is a boss that's really gonna be now introducing, you know, the status ailment into the game, into the boss fights, but it still felt a little bit fair here. The second phase, he is going to be merging, you know, with the Scrapped Watchman, and that's going to be adding a little bit more variety, you know, to his attacks, and he's still going to be keeping some attacks from the first phase. It is a very, very good boss, but not great, but it's very good, because this boss, he's going to be jumping over you, he's going to be burrowing as well, so he is really doing everything he can to keep the fight fresh. So he's just not standing there like the Archbishop, which is absolutely horrible. That, oh my god, that... Yeah, I just remembered the Archbishop. That fight is so damn bad. This is a very good, very competent boss fight. A class, absolutely. Now, Walker of Illusion. Voger of Illusion. This, to me, felt more like a mini-boss than an actual boss in the game. She is designed very well. The atmosphere of the whole boss fight was very nice. I have to say that. But she is very simple. She has this special move where she is going to be cloning herself, and then the two of them are going to be attacking you. The thing is, the clone doesn't really have a lot of health, and she goes down super fast. My problem with this boss fight is that 90% of her attacks you can simply nullify by running, locking onto the boss and running under her arm. Just going, sorry, I do have COVID still. Simply running under her into the right side. That's gonna make you pretty much avoid a lot of the attacks. But still, I kind of liked it. B or C class, you know what? I have fond memories of her, and I'm absolutely going to put her into the B class. Corrupted Parade Master. Now, this is already in the part of the game where they are just going really, really crazy. I don't really like the rehash of the bosses, and the Green Monster, they really did that really, really well, how they worked the Scrapped Watchman into this. But this guy, Decay here is just annoying, because he infects you with the decay like that. So I'm sorry, I can't snap fingers on my left hand for some reason. And not only is it chewing away at your health, it is also breaking down your weapon. So when you're trying to fix that, he can just close the distance. It is a very annoying boss, very annoying. And I know a lot of people had problems with him. I mean, you can beat him very easily, but from a design perspective, this to me is just another really bad boss. He's not as bad as the Archbishop, but unfortunately, even though they are going to be down in the same line, they're not the same level of quality. Let's make sure of that. But it's not a good boss. Now, the second Black Rabbit boss fight. This one was awful. This to me is, again, one of the worst bosses in the entire game. Again, should have been just the eldest brother. The other three are just so annoying. They don't even almost take turns, and they all have status ailments, which is just beyond annoying, and their personalities are really coming through in this boss fight. The things they say and everything, they are just so irritating. And this boss fight only becomes interesting yet again when the eldest brother steps up. But it lasts too little. This boss fight is actually really, really bad, and it just goes to show that it's only From Software that basically knows how to pull off these gang boss fights. I will never forget the Smo and Ornstein. That is just poetry. And this is nowhere near. But it is nowhere near the Archbishop either. So C class, absolutely. Now, Door Guardian. I think some of you might disagree with this choice, and this might actually be a little bit more of a controversial rating, but I do believe this is a very good boss. Very good. And it is a boss that is clearly inspired by the Flame Giant from Elden Ring. You have one leg that's his weak point, and he has that elbow ground slam, body slam. It's just a little bit, too samey, but I don't mind. I do not mind. And it is not that complicated, but he had enough of the movesets, for his giant size, where he kind of kept the boss fight very, very interesting. You had to lay down the hurt on his leg to topple him over, and then you can just unload at him. But he also did have shock, and that would make you have issues with your own stamina, and he could really, really move fast. But if you are positioning yourself around him, it is very easy to just dodge, block, and just pretty much circle around him and just keep laying down the hurt on that leg. He is going to be going down. But it is a very, very good boss fight, in my opinion. Now, we are going to Laxasia, and here's the thing. I know a lot of you love this boss fight. To me, this boss fight is absolutely definition of mediocre. Absolutely. I know she's this really cool, millennia wannabe, but you know what? I can see this going either way. I could put her in A class. Honestly, I could put her in B class. Because this, I feel like, is going to be depending on taste. Because she does have a very varied moveset. She does move around. She's very agile, which is something that I cannot say for most of the bosses in this game. And I appreciate that. The boss that is so agile that you kind of need to keep repositioning yourself and just you're making the whole arena work. And that is just what you want from a boss fight in a Souls-like and Soulsborne game. And that is what you get here. The thing is, she almost always follows up the same attacks with same attacks. It's kind of scripted. When she does that super long wind-up attack, she is always going to be following up with that drag electricity attack over the floor. And that's just silly. So if you see this attack, you know what's coming, and you know what's coming after that. But the second phase kind of turns that upside down. You know what? I am gonna go and put her in the A class. So far, the King of Puppets is there in the S tier, but she has nothing on him, honestly. Now, Simon, oh my gosh. I first need to talk about his design. What the hell was that? It felt like fighting Johnny Bravo, the Bloodborne version. Honestly, that has to be one of the ugliest, dumbest, most nonsensical visual designs for a boss I have ever seen. And to think that he's, you could call him the final boss, because you have an optional final boss. He should have commanded a lot more gravitas by sheer presence than what they did here. And I did not appreciate that. The first phase, hey, it's a very, very clean fight. And he really makes use of that mace, and the animation work is just beautiful. He has enough to keep this interesting in the first phase. And then he really ups the ante in the second phase. He adds all of these special attacks to his already existing attacks, and you can even get a Hand of God coming down to help him. Basically, you're going to be waiting for your turn to attack a lot of the times. But that kind of makes him a little bit more... It's very interesting, because you are there, you kind of worked your way to him, and it just builds anticipation. But I also understand that this can feel a little bit more annoying. B class for me. If he actually looked a little bit different, maybe I could have put him in the A class, but this way, no. And now, to the true final boss of the game, the Nameless Puppet. The Nameless Puppet to me is... I honestly think this is probably the best boss fight in the entire game. He is just really cool looking. The setup for the boss fight was just breathtaking. He is so fast and agile and just moving about, and you have to match him every step of the way. And then the second phase comes and he just goes absolutely insane. All of his attacks, he adds more to them. He becomes so much more insane and violent and unpredictable. It's what this whole game was leading up to, and I feel like all these other bosses have not prepared you for the Nameless Puppet correctly, honestly. The only way for you to get prepared for the Nameless Puppet is just by fighting the Nameless Puppet. All these other bosses simply don't measure up to this one. This is the true final boss, and probably the closest in quality that they came to the From Software bosses. He has just everything. He has a variety of attacks, he can surprise you, but he does not feel unfair at any point. Because, you know what? Something that this game really did need is how in Volong, for example, and this is something that I personally complained about in Volong, you need a better indicator, of the red attacks, because just the whole enemy glowing constantly, it doesn't really transfer correctly, the information that, okay, now block, you still need to judge it. And in Volong, you have the little flash, he comes, this is when you block. It still didn't feel unfair. Despite how this pairing, perfect parries, perfect blocks worked here, he still didn't feel unfair. And it's the best boss fight in the entire game. And I'm gonna put him in the S tier right here next to the King of Puppet. And even though these two now are in the same class, he is absolutely head and shoulders above the poor Romero, which I apologize to. He's still an amazing, amazing boss fight, but Nameless Puppet is just amazing. And I applaud Novice for the design of that one, honestly. Guys, this is the ranking. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what your ranking would be of the bosses for, well, Lies of P. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I managed to pull this through, without coughing too much and, losing breath because, man, COVID still hits like a truck. Guys, hopefully you had a nice Christmas and everything, and looking forward to a new year. Let me know in the comments. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.